Hey everyone, welcome back to Old World Legends. I'm your host Mike, and with me as always is Evan.
Hello.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the recent RTT we had at Orange County at a local store that we go to all the time called Comic Quest. It's a great location, and we had a Dwarfs win big just to get straight to the point. Massive victory for the Dwarfs today, but we're going to talk to you a little bit about the event and then run through some of the top lists that we had. And then, Evan, you weren't able to attend, unfortunately, right?
Yeah,
Nurgle gave you its blessings,
I got the plague. It's
which is
pretty bad.
unfortunate. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it happens. Well, Nurgle visits everybody from time to time throughout the year. So, yeah, why don't we pull up some of the images and give people a look at before? We've talked about some of the other stores in the past. We always like to highlight the location, the venue we're at, and give a shout out to our friends there. So here's some pictures of the venue itself, right? This is showing off some of our old world legends terrain. This is some of the terrain that we've been making. Definitely spend a lot of time and energy on this. And yes, that is in fact a river in the center of that table. And that is a bridge going across that. Oh boy, that was a lot of work to make that.
Yeah, it looks like
Um,
hundreds of those little logs in there.
it was a lot of time and energy. Really excited. What else do we have? So that was definitely really exciting. Great to see some of the dwarfs there and other armies. What else do we have? Oh, okay. So this is more of a close-up view
Yeah.
at dwarves on dwarves. I think that happened in round two. Dwarves are very popular right now. It was interesting. Last year, for quite a while, Bretonia was the hottest army, and then Wood Elves was really hot for quite some time, and then Tomb Kings, and right now it seems dwarves are pretty hot, but high elves are starting to get really hot too. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to see what's popular from time to time, and we're definitely getting a lot of members of the community building multiple armies because they're just having so much fun with Old World. So what else do we have? Oh, there's that bridge
I'm sensing
again,
a
right?
theme
The
here.
dwarves defending it. I asked him, it's like, how did they get up there? How did they even move so fast? Or why are they on the bridge? It's like, you know what? The bridge is in front of me. I felt I needed to take it before my opponent did. And I
Yeah,
said, that is the best answer ever.
that makes sense.
And then what else do we have? Do we have a bigger view of everything? Oh no! Oh, so this is different. So this shows off some of the. This is the Chaos Dwarf terrain. So not the normal dwarfs, but this is our Chaos Dwarf table. And I think that was we also had what was he fighting? Beastmen there. Yeah, a lot of dragon
Yeah.
ogres. Beautiful army, Matt's army there in the Beastmen. He's been doing a great job painting
Yeah,
that.
the
Awesome
purple
job.
beastmen are very gorgeous. And I have to just say, my favorite little guys right here, the Bestigor, coming out strong. He's been bringing them to every tournament I've seen him play at. And I love those dudes. They're like, I'm a Chaos Warrior, I promise.
Yep. And so this table is pretty cool of the terrain. You can see some of those pillars there. In case you're curious, what the heck are those pillars? That's actually called a Chaos Dwarf Woods. That's what we use to represent the woods for the Chaos Dwarf table. And this is our first table with a road. So we'll certainly talk more about terrain other events, but our road is
Yeah.
effectively gives you anyone on foot, not flyers, gets +1 movement with interacting with the road. So that's a fun addition to the game as well. So we're starting to expand the boundaries. The rule set is so fantastic what they built. Uh, that's another right higher level view of the orc table we saw before. You can't really
Yeah.
tell Mount Orkmore in the bottom right because of the angle I'm at. We'll have
Oh,
pictures
yeah, it's the
in the
different orc
future.
heads, right? From Mount Rushmore
Yeah,
type thing.
well, that's
Yeah.
okay. We'll get pictures of that in the future. What else do
Yeah.
we have?
Yeah, and the War Wagon. See, the War Wagon showed up.
Oh, the War Wagon. Oh, people love the War Wagon. Everybody asked every round how the War Wagon did. It was so cool to see that on the table.
Okay, and here's like an
And then there
overview
we
of
go.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone at again local gaming store, right? They're all different everywhere. This is at Comic Quest, a great location in Orange County, and excited about it. But people are here to talk about the lists and who went to the top. So should we start right at the top with number one?
Sure. Just gotta cycle back.
Let's cycle back. Let's find
But it
his
was
army list in there.
I'm pretty sure this is this Greg's list? Because it looks
I,
like the list with the
I'm
Iron
pretty sure that's
Drakes.
Drake's list. Yep.
Yeah, Iron Drakes over here, and they're in a one big brick. You've got the Toughness 10 anvil, and then you've got this big Longbeard unit with the King and the Thane in it, and then a
Mm-hmm.
single grudge thrower, because you have to have three units that aren't characters, war machines, or war beasts and swarms. So
Mm-hmm.
you need the grudge thrower, or else it's not legal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we got it.
You're gonna have to zoom in on some of that. I definitely, I don't know if anybody can read that, but we can talk about it. So yeah, our top list Went 3-0. Did exceptionally well. Was Greg's list. I believe his last name is pronounced Vaughn. I believe that's how you pronounce it. He'll tell me if I pronounced it wrong because he'll watch this later. Greg is a fantastic player. He's been showing up to a bunch of our events for quite some time now, and he's been iterating on several different armies. And right now, he's focused on his dwarf list, and I'm
Yeah.
excited he's working on getting that painted up. But he was inspired by some of the lists he saw some other players taking online and definitely took a lot of the strategies and methods that they were using with that. So let's just kind of break it down. So, what are you seeing at the top of his list there, Evan?
So this is the king, and this is a very scary king because he's got these, he's got the shield bearers, which is an amazing mount because it just gives you 3 extra wounds while you're still infantry, so you don't have to be, worry about the whole like I get countercharged, I get monster slayered. You still get to be infantry. You take the, I think it's so Master Rune of Smiting gives you
Mm-hmm.
all of your attacks are d6 wounds, and you get to add that on top of a great weapon. So you basically have a much better Ogre Blade because it's +2 strength, AP2, but now
Mm-hmm.
you're d6 wounds instead of d3, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
huge.
yeah, and then Master Rune of Gromrel and is protecting you with better armor. Master Rune of the
Mm-hmm.
Furnace is gives you a ward save versus flaming attacks, which this is it's a very cheap upgrade that is very useful versus dwarves, for example, because the runesmith gives the unit he's in flaming attacks. So if you're in a dwarf versus dwarf matchup, Rune of the Furnace means that guy's got a lot of protection now. And finally,
Yep.
Rune of Preservation is just so incredibly strong. It's just I ignore multi wounds and killing blow. So this guy, you have
Yeah.
to fight every single one of those 6 wounds individually. That is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, in the meantime, is just smacking the absolute face off of dragons and anything that shows up. I
Well,
think this guy.
it's definitely the strategy of building that immovable object, right? And just saying, "Come and get some." And he can be killed. He absolutely can. But he is also surrounded by a very large, intimidating unit, as you saw in the picture, a very powerful unit. And so, this is built for multiple rounds of combat, right? For a
Yeah,
really big grudge match that's going to go over multiple turns. And most lists right now are not built to handle that.
yeah. He is essentially a combo of almost like a dragon's level of power and defensiveness with the unit he's in providing a lot of combat resolution. So he can just sit there and tank the damage, and instead of winning by 1 or 2 points or being very close, he actually wins by like +7 because the whole unit is just providing all of this extra combat resolution as well.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult to fight the 28 Longbeards who have the king and the runesmith in there because the runesmith
Mhm.
provides the whole unit with the 5 up ward save from Master Rune of Grungni, and then Rune of
Yep.
Battle's another +1 to their combat resolution. So you've got Close Order, Banner, Rune of Battle, BSB, 2 ranks. I mean, that's just a crud ton already, right?
Plus, the unit's going to be drilled, and
Oh
so
no,
they're
and the
going to
unit
be.
has Rune of Battle as well, so that's a whole nother one. Yeah, so we're at 7, I think.
It's a lot. And so they're going to be moving right their triple speed. So again, they're not the fastest thing in the world, but so
Right.
many points are in that, right? It's very hard to avoid this thing. And again, keep in mind, even for you don't need to win by 2,000 points to win a game of Old World. You need to
Yeah.
win by 100 points to win a game. So if this unit, right, it's hard. It's going to be hard for the opponent to get points off of this unit. And so therefore, as long as it's scoring 1, 200, 300, 400 points above the opponent, right? That's more than enough to get a win. And then, of course, a lot of people also say, I can take that on, or they get over zealous and charge everything into it. And then they realize, oh, I didn't do as much damage as I thought I was going to do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly when the dwarves are like, now we have you. Because
Yeah.
that's exactly the position the
Well,
dwarves
and,
want to
and
be
then
in.
and then
It's
if
like,
you only
great,
do 3 or 4
multiple rounds.
wounds, they don't even need to do that many wounds back, and now suddenly you lose combat by like 10 because they just already have +7 before they do anything. So
Mm-hmm.
unless if you kill 10 of them in a turn, they win.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
very
great
difficult to
combo.
deal with.
And now you're right next to them, which is exactly now they can catch you no problem because you're right there. All right, so let's keep going down the list. He also had a runesmith. So tell us about the runesmith.
Yeah, so the runesmith provides, first of all, he's a dispel threat, so he has 3 runes of spell breaking. Each one of those is, I don't even have to roll, I just deny your spell. Now, these are incredibly important for stopping someone from Miasm Miraging your dwarfs on the first turn when they've just sprinted up the table using the anvil.
Mm-hmm.
So you just,
Mm-hmm.
nope, spell breaking. And then the second time, they throw out Column of Crystal, nope, second spell breaking. So you use these pretty quick, but it's incredibly important because as soon as you're in combat, you can fight, get the points, then turn to face the next thing. Maybe their wizard's already dead by that point, so you use these very early on. And then the other combo here is the Master Rune of Grungni. While it's very expensive, it's insanely effective because it gives the entire unit the 5+ ward save. We've seen kind of a similar adaptation recently
Mm-hmm.
with the High Elf Arcane Journal, where they have a similarly pointed banner to give them +1 toughness, so that the
Yep.
elves can pretend they're dwarves. But this is, hey, this whole unit now has a ward save. So they've got the good armor, now they've got a ward save. Who can kill 10 of these guys in a turn, right?
It's
Can
tough.
you?
It,
I don't know.
it is possible, but it
Yeah.
is tough. And the main thing with the spell breaking, this is where a lot of people right now, I think a lot of the prevailing thought in a lot of the competitive games is that you have to have one level four, two level fours. You have to go all in on magic to even play the game. And certainly this is an example where a dwarf list is saying, no, you don't, because this list is built for both durability and again, they don't have a ton of magic stoppage, but they have easily, right? If you can stop the pivotal spell
Yeah.
one or two times, right? If for turn one or two, and typically it's not turn one the pivotal spell because usually your armies are further away. So it's really turn two and
Oh,
turn
Mike,
three.
are you unaware of how the 28 Longbeards who are drilled can use. First of all, they paid 25 points to Vanguard the 3 inches. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can move twice. So they can march 9 inches and then they can move 9 inches again.
Yeah, well,
And
again,
yeah,
that's assuming you're going first, of course, right? So the point is, if the opponent goes first,
yeah,
typically a pivotal spell that's going to do a significant amount of damage or get in the way of your army, you're typically not within range, or they're further out of
right,
range that can't do
right.
too much. But the point is, 3 runes of spell breaking is often, or 4 or whatever it is, enough to get through those pivotal turns, right? Because as
Yeah.
long as you can cause enough damage and survive for those critical turns, you don't need to have that level 4 wizard or 2 level 4 wizards. So this is just, now the dwarves have the advantage of the spell breaking rune that other armies don't have. But again, I would encourage more people to experiment with other lists that have more magic resistance and more dispel scrolls and see how things work out. You don't have to take a level 4 to win. And this is one of those examples. That being said, it sure is nice to have somebody who can dispel spells. Sure is nice.
Yeah,
All right,
and well,
let's
that's
keep going.
also what the Anvil of Doom's for. So the Anvil of Doom is a little tank. When you take the Rune of
Mm-hmm.
Adamant, the Anvil of Doom is now toughness 10, and it
Mm-hmm.
is, it's got armor. Okay, it's got a
Yep.
lot of decent attacks, and anything that attacks it that's strength 4 or lower cannot wound it. So if you
Yep.
send in chaff units, you know, to go try to fight this thing, it can't even wound it on a 6. It cannot do damage.
Mm-hmm.
If a dragon attacks it, let's say a dreadlord with a great weapon on a black dragon, all of those attacks have to wound it on a 6.
Yep.
It's just scratching
Yeah.
paint.
And so so basically to deal with this thing, to either A, the strategies are to ignore it, which is frustrating because it can be very effective,
Yeah,
or and there's a lot of points in it too, or B, if you it's not impossible to kill it, you can kill it. One of the best ways to kill it is poison. But not every army has a lot of poison shots, right? Because eventually you roll enough sixes, you're going to get through that thing. But again, that's very limited how many factions or armies have accessibility to that. The other way to really to handle it is then through a lot of combat res. But again, most
it's
players are not
unbreakable and
building.
it's not unstable, so I don't think that's going to do anything.
It's unbreakable. Can't you push it back though?
It's immobile. I mean, I think it can give ground, but I mean, you're gonna
Right.
have to make it give ground 7 times to get off the table.
Does it ignore? Can it still cast spells if it's in combat? Does it
It
ignore
can't.
what other wizards do?
It can't. If you lock it down, sure. Then
Yeah.
you know. But a lot of the time you charge it with, let's say, a unit of 5 Marauder cavalry. They do
Yeah.
no damage.
Yeah.
The anvil kills 2 of them. They lose,
Oh,
so they
easily.
back up. So now you're not locked in combat anymore. So that,
Yeah. Well,
then it
to
can
your
cast
point,
its rune of
yes,
fireball at you and just kill the rest of the Marauder cav with
the
that.
lightweight chaff that you would typically send at war machines are not going to work on this, right? 3 Fellbats, 5 Marauder Horsemen, 5 Reavers, right? That's just not going to get the job done because there are still dwarves. I think there's a rune priest who's sitting on that thing. I mean, and does it have guard too? I think, right?
It has two
Um,
guards, and it has
yeah.
like 5 or 6 wounds or something, and it can and its character
Hmm.
so it can challenge. And so if you send in 5 chosen chaos knights, those guys still wounded on 6s. So
Yeah.
what's that do?
Could be
What's that
tough.
gonna do?
Yeah. So again, I think this is just there are solves to it, but not a ton of them. And again, it's shifting what people have to bring. And a dragon is setting a dragon to keep this in combat is not a good use of a dragon's points. It's
Yeah,
actually a really bad use of the dragon's points. Yep.
Yeah, and so what this list is doing, it's classic points denial. So you have the Longbeards with the two characters in it. That's a 1,200 point unit that you cannot fight, and unless if you can shoot it to death, it's gonna live, right? Then you've got very low points in the Grudge Thrower 95 and the Cart 65. That's not that many points. Even if you kill both of those two things, that's not, that's only barely enough to win if you lose 0 points to the rest of the army. And then you've got 18 Iron Drakes who they've got full plate armor, they've got drilled, they're pretty tough. Like if they a lot of things that charge that get killed by the stand and shoot. So
Yeah, if they're not
yeah,
prepared. I think exactly to your point. This is
yeah,
a great example where the dwarf players, through iterations of their army, are finding a different strategy, a points denial strategy with the build, where again, it doesn't need to win by too many points. And most people over the last year were focused on MSU, multiple small unit lists, and the multiple small unit lists will not be able to crack that unit. That
yeah,
unit is too tough to crack. So that unit absolutely can be killed. That king absolutely can be killed, but you have to bring the appropriate army that has the ability to have a slogfest multiple rounds. And most people have not been fielding armies that can handle that. A dragon typically by itself will not get that job done, right? And will bounce off of that. But yes, so there's really kind of two ways to tackle it. Either A, you do need to build a list that can handle this, which means you are going to shift dynamically what we've seen people be taking, or B, you need to try and avoid it and kill the Iron Drakes or the other chaff to squeak out a win by 100, 200 points. But they're not easy kills. As you said, right? They are armored. They can stand and fire. They have a lot of shots, and that those dwarves on foot are a lot faster than you think, especially if they get to move twice.
yeah, yeah. The anvil letting you move twice. The anvil giving the spell that then lets them reroll their armor saves and improve the armor by one. So you've got heavy armor and a
Mm-hmm.
shield, so you're at a 4+ armor save. But oh no, never mind. It's a 3+ now because the anvil made it a 3+, and now it's a reroll. So if you try to shoot these with like bows that are AP 0, it's 3+ rerollable against all of that. So look, if that spell doesn't go off, then fair. Then you try to shoot them and you try to do something, right? But if that spell's off, you cannot charge this unit. It will just eat you. like
Yep. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. So, and that's the best advice we give people. If you did not build an army, truly build an army that could tackle that unit, don't try to tackle it. Try to get your points from the rest of his army. And remember, you only need to win by 100 points. So, be careful about what you're feeding him in order to
yeah,
get that off. But it's a very strong list. It's I think it's one of the we've been saying for a while. We're really impressed by the dwarf book and the dwarf roster, and I think there are multiple really exciting builds that the dwarves are bringing to the table. And I think it's not very long before we see some dwarves not just podium, or we're seeing them starting to be able to win some RTTs. I think they have a very good shot at starting to win some GTs in the near future. Absolutely.
yeah.
Anything else about this list you want to go over, Evan?
I just want to point out, I think a thing that I don't know if a lot of people talk about, but okay, so the main strategy is you've got the Longbeards, they're in marching column. The cart lets them have movement 4.
You want to scroll down the list so other people could see the rest of the list.
You can't really.
Oh,
This.
can you not on the
I
picture?
I could do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So you have the cart giving the movement 4. They're in marching columns. Then they can move 4 or move 12, and then the anvil lets them move twice. So that's 24 inches after they've vanguarded up 3 inches. So that's 27 inches in one turn. They can't do that if you put a scout unit right in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So scouts cause a big problem. And if they're in marching column and you're 12 inches out, they can't charge you either. So their charge range is 10 inches. So on the first turn, if you have a unit 12 inches away, they now can't march 27 because you're going to be in the way. And even if they did charge you, you could just flee, and then they're just going to move, 9 inches forwards, and that's it. So
Absolutely.
this whole build, at least the first turn pressure is shut off by just having a scout unit, right? And look, that's something you can't do versus a high elf dragon with arcane urgency moving 40 inches at you. Okay, because they can do, so it's essentially people who have fly can do the exact same thing with battle magic, but they just do it better. And so the dwarves have this flaw where they actually move on the ground like normal people, and that can be stopped with a scouting unit.
Yeah, definitely. So there are counters out there. So
Yeah,
definitely, I think people are going to see this more often as dwarf players. And again, this list isn't for everybody, right? There are definitely a lot of dwarf players who really like more the variety of the units and different things that you get from other lists. But this is a really exciting list, and we're Curious to see how it performs over the next few months, and then also curious to see what kind of counters we're going to see to the list. But either way, well done, Greg. Did an absolutely great job. So let's not go to Zach yet. Why don't we go to list two? Do you have Alex's list? All right, wonderful. So yeah, this is a shorter, smaller roster size in terms of unit entries. But in second place, we had Alex Grant again, another great player in a local scene, who's been iterating on his chaos list for some months now, or quite a while now. It's looking really strong, and this is kind of his latest incarnation. And he also went 3-0. Greg just squeaked out ahead of him with a few more battle points, because it was a 1-day event, right? On the weekend. So, Evan, why don't you take us through Evan or Alex's list?
Okay. So we have our classic Chaos Lord of incredibly powerful. When you just have the
Mm-hmm.
Chaos Lord with a dragon, mark a Nurgle, which means you're up at skill 7 or possibly higher once you gaze at the sun and you don't burn your eyes out. It's just hard to hit you because mark a Nurgle rerolling sixes. So a lot of the other combat lords are hitting you on a 4+ with every 6 having to start over, which is
Mm-hmm.
hard to get hit. Then you got Ogre Blade, so then this Chaos Lord who already has his ward save doesn't need to buy that, can just spend his points on this very powerful item. He's got 5 attacks, so he already magnifies the number of times he can hit you with it. And in Favor of the Gods is so that you can try to avoid getting stupid by rerolling on the Gaze of the Gods table. And Brazen Collar for Magic Resistance 2. So just, you want to cast spells at him? No, you won't, because Magic Resistance 2 is just going to drop your level 4 down to a level 2 when you try to, do like Miasma Barrage.
Makes
Right?
it a lot harder for sure. And
Yeah.
and also, again, for those not as familiar with the rules, right, the when Evan's talking about going gazing into the sun, right, so the chaos characters, right, have roll on the Gaze of the Gods table every turn. And most self-respecting chaos players will roll on that because it's an exciting table. There are some downsides to it, but the upsides are great, in particular if you roll 4,
Downside.
5, or 6. Well, stupidity's not great, but if you roll 4, 5, or 6, you're
I'm
going
leadership
to get
9,
a
bro.
permanent
I don't
buff.
care.
Well, until you fail that. Oh, and it happens.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Pretty
but
much
when I
every
gaze
game
in
I've
the
played.
gods and I become stupid, I don't have to take that stupidity test till the following turn.
Yeah, but that's a different thing all entirely. We're not doing a deep
That's
dive
so
on chaos
strong.
here. But the point is that you start already. The Chaos Lord starts with the best baseline
Yes.
stats from pretty much any character in the game. In the current edition, they are the strongest base stat line profile, and then you can get those additional perma buffs where you can get a weapon skill higher or strength higher or and
Well,
such, and
the
it can be
monstrous
very
infantry
very
characters
meaningful.
like the Ogre Tyrant and the Doom Bull do have higher
Mm-hmm.
numbers, but they don't have mounts, so they have to. So like a Chaos Lord on
Correct.
foot loses to a Doom Bull on foot, but he gets to
Yeah.
then buy a mount, so it's not fair.
Yeah, for I guess base size character, for that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
There are some. So it's a really powerful combo when you start at that weapon skill 7, and then you can. It's very possible, and happens very often. You'll go up to an 8 or a 9 depending on your rolls for that game. So suddenly, at best, the other best characters you're going to face off in a duel would hit you on 4s, and then you would hit them on 4s, and very rapidly you'll start hitting them on 3s, which makes it better. And then that mark of Nurgle, so you have to reroll those 6s. It just makes you so much more durable
Mm-hmm.
because it was already hard for the opposing melee characters to hit you in combat to begin with. So it's a very, very strong defensive combo. Which is what we're seeing there, and then the brazen collar again, that gives you that magic resistance too. So a lot of you're like, oh well, one of the best ways to solve the big scary beastie thing over there is I'm going to debuff it, right? Hex it, do put some nasty thing on it. But when he
Yeah.
has a built-in magic resistance too, that makes it a lot harder because now you have -2 to whatever you're rolling, and that's before he attempts to dispel it too. So it's a really strong defensive combo. But he also has enchanting aura. What does that
Yeah, and
do?
the Enchanting Aura, I personally don't like this because Enchanting Aura says, oh, you want to fight me? Well, actually, everyone touching me is strikes last now. So if you charge him, you just don't get to swing. He gets to kill you, and he does so much damage, he might
Well,
kill
you
you
get to
before you even
swing.
fight.
He just gets
No, no,
to
but
swing
you're going to be
before you.
dead. You'll be dead, though.
Well, very likely. He's
Yeah,
going to hit you very hard, and if he doesn't hit you hard enough, his dragon will also hit you as well. So
exactly.
it's a very powerful combo, and this is one of the strongest single model combos in the game right now that have been around for a while. Again, it can be defeated. One of its biggest weaknesses is Monster Slayer. There's a lot of armies out there who have Monster Slaying Sword, who can kill him. Just depends on how good you are. And though, and Evan did mention that, right? Being a Chaos Lord, you're going to have that built-in 5-up ward save with your Chaos Armor for this
Exactly.
Chaos Lord character. So he has a lot of saves. Monster Slayer is his biggest weakness, but he's also really hefty at 622 points. So pros and cons, but it's just such a fun character too, and it's just really cool to have a Chaos Lord on a Chaos Dragon. It's super fun. We've seen so many cool models of people figuring out what to use for that model. A lot of people are converting up different things. Some people go with the two heads. Some people like the split heads. Some people like. I've seen so many different cool models. It's great to see that. And
So
then, but of
yeah,
course, we'll see in the future. The rumors are, in theory, there's potentially in the future a match play pack, or there might be that the team, the old world team, might be saying, hey, maybe they want to cap a single character for a 2,000 point game at 500 points, which would significantly change this build. But that hasn't happened yet. So for right now, it's still one of the most exciting, powerful things to field on the table if you're playing the Chaos Warriors for
yeah.
sure.
I will say that I think that the Enchanting Aura does a lot better when you stick it on the Sorcerer Lord and that Sorcerer Lord's in a unit, and now you have a second unit on the field somewhere that is saying, no, 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 you strike after me. Because then the unit will benefit from that a lot more than the Lord, who can often just survive a turn of whatever someone's going to fight him with anyway. But and you're also just putting
Pros
so
and
many eggs
cons.
in that one basket, right? Now, but
Well,
this
it
is
just
a
depends
very
what Alex was
standard.
going for, right?
Yeah,
Maybe Alex is
yeah.
specifically trying to
Well, he
hunt.
got second place, so he went
He
for something
clearly he
right.
knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah,
So I agree. You could definitely maximize potentially your damage output by splitting those points into other things. But he might specifically have that there to hunt down the characters that do have Monster Slayer, because maybe he's trying to hope they charge him. He kills them before they ever get to hit him with that ability. So that's my guess is
yeah.
what he's probably why he's probably doing that.
Yeah, like for example, the lot of discussion recently about, let's say, an archmage with illusion magic, lore familiar, and like white sword, and he's riding a sky cutter. He cannot
Mm-hmm.
charge this chaos lord because if he charges the chaos lord and tries to cast doppelganger to kill him, he will be dead first. The chaos lord will just smash him to pieces before he gets to do anything. So there's a lot of characters in the game who cannot fight him.
Well, just to be clear, they can fight him. We
No,
don't
they'll
recommend
just
it.
lose.
Let's be clear about our
Yeah.
term. You can
Okay.
charge him. You can fight him. Maybe not the best strategy. He's one of the strongest combos for a single model in the game. All right.
Right.
So what else does he have though? He's
Right,
not
but
just the
well,
Chaos
and
Lord on the
very
Dragon.
different from very different from the dwarf list. You see, there's a lot of other more medium-sized bricks out here. Right, we've got the
Mm-hmm.
gigantic chaos bonds of Nurgle, who are just incredibly well priced for being toughness 6 monster that has a regen save, which makes it a
Mm-hmm.
lot harder to, like, for example, shoot with cannonballs, stuff like that, because a lot of the damage just bounces off. Right,
Mm-hmm.
and these things can just, oh, I rolled high on my random movement, I'm just going to charge that now. So you can just roll and see what number you get on random movement, and then just decide what you're going to do after you see the number, which is crazy, crazy effective. And he's got the dragon ogres. Look, they're very effective. They don't have swift strides, so I always tell people they're not a flanking unit. You stick them in the middle. Okay, they're like a main front line center of
Yeah,
the field
they're a heavy.
unit.
They're a heavy unit. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're an anvil for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the 10 Marauder Horsemen, that's where the wizard goes. So the Sorcerer Lord, he's actually heavy cavalry, so he can only join them if they're in close order or open order. They can't be in
Open order, I
skirmish.
think. Right. Yeah.
For Marauder Cavalry, I don't remember which one they have, but essentially they have to be ranked up for him to join them.
Yep.
Yeah, and so look, their Marks of Zinch, they're mostly just there to give him another +1 to cast. So you're spending 155 points worth of guys to give him +1 to cast and to absorb some arrows for him, but they
Yep.
do it pretty well.
They do it well, and again, you'll often see, right, the battle magic is the typical combo. Not always. Some I personally like dark magic as well. Depends, or demonology depends. Are you going for buffing your units with battle lust with dark magic or some other things, or are you going for demonology, which has buffs and debuffs, or are you going for that just pure damage output with battle magic in particular, hoping for pillar of fire and fireball, and certainly with Mark of Zinch, you're likely to take the signature spell for the blue flame of Zinch for another effectively a
Yeah,
very effective fireball as well. And then, of course, the Infernal Puppet. We don't need to talk about that in depth, right? But it's obviously one of the best magic defenses in the game because within 24 inches, it forces your opponent to roll 3 dice and remove the highest one when casting their spells. So, again, really, really good magic defense there and such. And this is a very, very strong list. And Alex has been working on it, iterating on it, and we've seen a few different versions of it. And
yeah.
he definitely did very well at this event. So, well done, Alex.
I'm really surprised by the 15 Forsaken all in one unit though, because we generally see them more like 8 guys and just in a single line. But
You
having
do, but they're a
15
lot
as
more
one,
vulnerable when you do that.
yeah, and so 15 in one big squad, that's pretty interesting. And Korn for Killing Blow, that's exciting. I will
Yeah, I didn't
say,
get to actually see what he was doing with that, so I'd be
yeah,
curious. We should have to ask him what he was doing with that combo.
I mean, I think it's mostly just you have T4 Chaos Warriors who have a ward save and have stubborn, because the regular Chaos Warriors don't have the ward save that the Forsaken have,
No, they
and they
don't.
don't have stubborn. So it's like,
Nope.
damn, and they're very similar in points. So Forsaken just kind of outclass them in that way. Um,
Forsaken are really good. They're just a bit random in what they're doing.
yeah,
So I've seen different Chaos players will tell me at one day these are the best units ever. I love them
yeah,
because they rolled well, and then the next day their Forsaken did nothing. They've damned me, and they go back and forth. So
yeah.
I think they're a really exciting unit though, and certainly really thematic. And it's great to see them on the battlefield.
And I will say though that when you have Infernal Puppet, you're trying to get within dispel range, and
You are.
you're putting your Sorcerer Lord, who, to be fair, has Empire General melee stats, so he's
Hmm.
fine in combat. But he's just got 10 Marauder Horsemen guarding him, and now he's moving up the field. He's not staying back, he's moving towards you. So
Yep.
potentially you could tag that unit and kill him, because there's a lot of Marauder Horsemen that you could cut down and win on combat resolution and get him to run away. And then, you know.
Yeah,
And
in terms of the
Forsaken,
right the strategy here, that's
yeah,
exactly right. So we talked about what he's doing on the offense. On the opponent's side, again, typically you want to avoid the Chaos Lord. Effectively, your goal when fighting the Chaos Lord is how do you get him to kill less than his points worth? How do you get him to feed him or distract him with less than 600 points while you focus on the rest of his army? That is definitely the strategy, because unless you have Monster Slayer, and even if you do with the Enchanted Aura, it's definitely risky to go after it. So it's again, can you feed it chaff? Can you get it away? Because again, one of the big disadvantages of being on a dragon is you're still moving at close order, right? So you still have arcs. You don't have a 360 line of sight. You're not a skirmisher, right? So if you have a mobile army, you should be able to a degree, try to keep away from it, and hopefully kill the rest of his army. But that's what he's hoping, is that his dragon ogres or the spawns are tough enough that they're going to be able to take a punch or hold you up or control enough of the battlefield, the actual table you're fighting on, so that to get his dragon into position to hopefully maximize on what it's going to charge.
yeah.
Cool. All right. And then, so we had some of those, the more competitive lists, but we also, as we've mentioned before, have loads of players who just bring the most awesome armies. In fact, these are actually the majority of our players, bring fun, flavorful list, competitive list, but they're still having fun with it, right? You can have a fun list that's maybe not top tier meta, and you can still compete with it. As we have example here, Zach brought his Skaven. We've actually have quite a few Skaven players. I think we have 4 or 5 in the area who all bring different versions of that list, and I'm so happy when the Skaven show up because it's such a cool list. It's such a cool army. We have the first pass at our Skaven terrain. I'm excited to go back and put some more love and energy into that table because I just love Skaven being part of the old world. They're all so iconic to it. And yes, I know they're a legacy faction now, but I'm
Renegade.
confident that there's a future where they're going to become core at some point. But Zach did actually very well. Not only did it bring us Skaven and have a great day and some great games, he actually got fourth place. And if, in fact, he was just 3 points away from third place player with Empire. So Zach did very well. So tell us what Zach brought.
So I'm seeing a Gracier using
Mm-hmm.
Demonology. Demonology is great for Skaven because of the Steed of Shadows. You get the Magic Missile. You can try to buff up some of your squads. Um, they tend to sit in units of Gutter Runners, but there are no Gutter Runners here. Instead, we have
Nope.
13 Warplock Giselles, and one of the pictures from the RTT showed that he had them all in a single line with the Rat Swarms in front. So he basically just had this gun line of Giselles who are a really weird unit. They're supposed to be like sniper rifles, but they have ballistic skill 3, and then their guns are like bolt throwers. So it's essentially
But
like
if
yeah,
they hit
13 bolt
really
throwers.
hard. They just have to hit.
I
That's the
mean,
tricky part.
yeah, that's that, and so you have to have someone who's not having any real like minuses to hit penalties, and then maybe you'll get some decent chunks because they do. I don't know if they do multi wounds, but they have a lot of AP with high strength, so
Yeah.
definitely kill some knights. And rat swarms are swarms, so you can see over them, so you can sit the swarms in front of the Giselles and just to protect them from being charged, but you can still shoot, and that is an interesting idea.
Definitely saw him doing that. He definitely had more of a rather than we've been seeing a lot of Skaven bricks and such. Definitely saw Zach with more of a gun line Skaven, where he had his Giselles, the swarms, and then some of the units, the Gracier, I think, off to the flank, and then he had one of his flanks had the larger rats, right, the Hell Pit Abomination and the Warp Lightning cannons. So if you went towards the cannons, right, he would send that abomination at you. So it was a pretty effective list. He did well.
Yeah, and you got two more battle magic warplock engineers they can always
Mm-hmm.
sub out their signature spell for Warp Lightning, which is a
Yeah.
medium magic missile, and then hopefully, I assume you probably want to roll like Curse of Arrow Attraction to help with the rattling guns and the
Well,
chisels and
yeah,
stuff.
I mean the warp lightning is actually one of the best magic missiles in the game, but it's harder to cast. Is its downside with it. So
Yeah, it's like a
it
10
is
plus, right?
it yeah, it's above 7. I know it's more than 7. So with the level 2, right, it's harder to get it off. But if they do get it off, which is why they need to remember those warpstone tokens, right? Take your warpstone tokens, Skaven kids, so you can get your warp lightning off. Good, great combo.
Oh, we have a brass orb, which has a like 1 in 36 chance of just one-shotting something you throw it at, which is interesting. I mean, that's what Skaven used to do all the time, was just this crazy nonsense that somehow won. Like, I know the Doom Rocket was in every single list in 8th edition.
You never know
Um,
what Skaven are going to do, but you know you're going to have a fun time playing a game with them.
yeah, definitely. The Warp Lightning Can is also hilarious with its I just do damage in a straight line. That's kind of
Hmm.
funny. It leads to some
Or
weird
spin out
situations.
and shoot your own army because that's what they do.
Yeah, or you can shoot over your own
Uh,
guys intentionally because you just don't care.
yeah, all sorts of cool stuff. Cool. Anything else to talk about Zach's list?
I think he's a noble soul for taking a Hell Pit Abomination.
I love it,
It's
and it's
it's
such a
it's
cool
an
model.
abomination that the gigantic chaos spawn is a better hell pit in every single stat profile, and it
Well,
costs
for
less.
now, we'll see what the future brings. Again,
I
while
think
they're
what the
not
future should
focused
bring,
on
Mike, is that Skaven should just get
factions
more
now,
points. We're going to talk about this later, but
they
I
should
think
get
the
more
Skaven.
points, and they should become core at some point.
Since when did Skaven play fair? I think they should not play fair, and I think they should just bring more stuff than everybody else, because
Well, that
that's
would be in character.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I think that kind of wraps up our February event, which was a fantastic, great event. So many players attended, a lot of fun. Great to see more of the community. We also had some new players who this is their first event, and it was really exciting. We had Will who came by who literally bought some old world army the day before, and so he got to come over the next day and check out the event, have a great time, and hopefully we'll see him at some of our future events. So that kind of wraps that one up.
Yeah.
Any other closing thoughts, Evan?
Oh, just to mention that the GT is coming up in 2 weeks, so we're very excited about that.
Awesome. Again, great job, players, and well done, Greg. And we'll give you an update next month on how the GT went.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everyone.